Ukrainian troops struck multiple Russian energy, military and logistic targets in Ukraine's occupied territories on the night leading to December 8, the General Staff of Ukrainian Armed Forces reported on Monday. An ammunition depot was hit in the area of Kmerivka in eastern Luhansk region in an attempt to disrupt Russia's logistics system, while a warehouse storing Russian UAVs was struck near occupied Donetsk region. Moreover, a fuel depot belonging to a Russian unit was struck near Symykyne in Luhansk with the aim to cut Russians' ability to store and transport fuel and lubricants. A mobile fire group and a Panzer S-1 surface-to-air missile system were hit in Donetsk region. The extent of damage caused by the attacks has yet to be confirmed. In addition, the General Staff provided an update on a drone strike on Temryutsky seaport on Russia's southern Krasnodar region on December 5. As a result of the attack, 20 storage tanks amounting to 70% of the total number of tanks were destroyed in the seaport. A fire continues to burn at the liquefied gas loading ramp, where around 24 rail tankers are located. By Sunday evening, the fire covered nearly 1,000 square meters of area. Furthermore, the General Staff of Ukrainian Armed Forces stressed that the country's defense forces continue taking measures to undermine the military and economic potential of the Russian occupiers and compel the Russian Federation to cease its armed aggression against Ukraine.
Ukraine's military intelligence agency, HUR, said its drones hit a Russian Su-24 tactical bomber as part of a series of 8 accurate strikes on military targets inside Russian-occupied Crimea. The attacks were carried out with long-range drones by the primary unit, HUR said in a post on Telegram. An Su-24 tactical bomber, a Radom, a 39N6 Castor 2E2 radar group, an Orion unmanned aerial vehicle, 2 48YA6 K1 Podlot radar systems, a freight train and a Ural truck were damaged in the attacks. Since illegally annexing Crimea in 2014, Russia has thoroughly militarized the peninsula, using it as a base for regular missile and drone attacks against Ukraine, operations in the Black Sea, and land operations into southern Ukraine. Recently, Ukrainian military intelligence forces reportedly carried out a precision operation targeting Russian military infrastructure in temporarily occupied Crimea, destroying a MiG-29 fighter jet at the Kacha airbase and damaging a radar installation near Simferopol. In the same operation, the Irtysh airfield radar complex near temporarily occupied Simferopol was also hit. The MiG-29 is a Soviet-designed multi-role combat aircraft capable of both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions. Though originally developed in the 1980s, the jet remains a core component of Russia's tactical air power, often modernized with improvised avionics and weapon systems. It is regularly deployed in patrol and interception roles over occupied Ukrainian territory. The intelligence agency stated the operation is part of a broader campaign to degrade Russian air defense capabilities across occupied Crimea. This includes previous strikes targeting air defense missile systems and surveillance radars. Since 2023, Ukraine has steadily increased its options for striking Russian targets in Crimea using both airborne and maritime drones, depending on the target. According to Trench Art media outlet, Ukrainian missiles and drones are driving the Russian Navy's Black Sea fighter and bomber regiment into extinction. It is noted that the 43rd Maritime Attack Aviation Regiment, based at Saki Air Base in Russian-occupied Crimea, 100 miles from the front line in southern Ukraine, went to war in February 2022 with 12 Sukhoi Su-30 fighters and 12 Sukhoi Su-24 bombers. The jets fly bombing raids against Ukrainian installations on the Black Sea and also hunt Ukraine's drone boats. After a drone from the Ukrainian Special Forces primary unit struck an Su-24 on or just before Friday, the regiment is, according to The Observer, Captain Wild Bill Kelso, down to as few as 1 Su-30 and 2 Su-24s. At most, the regiment still has just 3 of its original Su-30s and 5 of its original Su-24s. Yes, the Russian Navy could restore the wing, but probably not to its original state. The Su-30 is still in production. The older Su-24 isn't. More to the point, the steady attrition of Crimea-based Russian warplanes underscores the prowess of Ukraine's deep strike drone units. Trench Art says Russian aircraft are not safe on or around the peninsula, and not just the naval strike jets from the 43rd Maritime Attack Aviation Regiment. On or just before Thursday, Primary struck a MiG-29KR, formerly embarked on Russia's decrepit aircraft carrier Admiral Kuznetsov at Kacha airfield in Crimea, 20 miles south of Saki. Pokrovsk has become a symbol of a new phase in the Russian-Ukrainian war, an urban standoff without delineated lines where small groups of saboteurs infiltrate the city, disguise themselves as civilians or Ukrainian soldiers, and selectively erode defenses. Ukrainian units live in a fog of suspicion and risk, where friend and foe can be just steps away, writes The Telegraph. We drove right past them, says Ivan, a 21-year-old machine gunner with the Da Vinci Wolves unmanned aerial vehicle unit, recalling the moment the saboteurs posed as Ukrainian fighters. Such situations in Pokrovsk are no longer an exception, but a normal course of events. Analysts note that the Russian army has transitioned to a democracy model of warfare. Instead of large offensive columns, which can easily be destroyed by drones, the Russians are advancing in groups of 3 to 5. The front lines are blurring, explains Finnish analyst Emil Kastahelmi. Russian reconnaissance drones are searching for holes in Ukrainian defenses. Due to a lack of personnel and constant aerial surveillance, these gaps are inevitable. Russian groups are entering the city on bicycles, motorcycles, civilian trucks, or even on foot, using fog and rain as cover. In the city, it's virtually impossible to distinguish enemy and friendly forces. That's why Ukrainian fighters have revived the long-standing tactic of using test words that are difficult for Russians to pronounce. One of the key ones is Palyanitsia, but even this does not always help. Ukrainian troops risk opening fire on civilians or their own units. One commander recalls an incident where soldiers were forbidden to fire on an infantry fighting vehicle because it was one of our own. It was later revealed that the vehicle was Russian, and it was destroyed by a drone only after further investigation. In another episode, a Ukrainian brigade mistakenly destroyed its own termite ground drones. Drones have become a key weapon in the city. They detect saboteurs and strike their hideouts. Therefore, Russian groups are the first to attempt to reach the positions of Ukrainian operators and kill them. Our second echelon isn't working, but it's responsible for 90% of the strikes, the military says. Without these strikes, it's harder for the Ukrainians to destroy reconnaissance groups approaching the city. According to Deep State, Russia already controls at least half of Pokrovsk, with the remaining territories remaining a grey zone. Not a single district is fully under Ukrainian control. President Zelenski estimated the number of enemy saboteurs in the city at 300, but the military believes the actual figure is higher. Ukrainian troops deployed elite units to the city. Azov attempted to stabilize the front in the summer with GUR special forces arriving on Black Hawks to restore logistics. But Russia's slow, steady infiltration tactics are having an effect. Pokrovsk remains a key point against potential Russian attacks on Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. However, analysts don't expect a quick Russian breakthrough. Their infiltration tactics are slow. If you just push the infantry forward, you're going to be stopped at some level. Kastahelmi explains. The capture of Pokrovsk alone does not open the way for Russia to rapidly seize control of Donbass. However, this tactic has one dangerous advantage. It is extremely difficult to stop.